Hello, this is Elena with the Koreaness Media team. On last week's episode, we learned about the advantages and disadvantages of living in Korea and in other countries abroad. If you haven't seen that episode yet, click right here and watch it now. On this weekly episode, we learn about the biggest cultural differences between Korea and other countries. What would be one of the biggest cultural differences that you noticed so far?
There's a lot of crime in the United States, and I feel like Koreans are much more trusting, and it's just a lot safer here. Koreans tend to do things that in America you would get robbed instantly, and so I really love how Koreans that's not even on their mind for the most part. So I think I really respect that.
Well, Oregon doesn't have a lot of people, and Seoul is a very, very dense city. So in Seoul, everybody lives on top of each other, next to each other. Whereas in Oregon, there's much more space. People keep much farther away from each other. So that's the big difference.
In my country, we still preserve our culture, tradition. I can see the difference between Japan and Korea. In Japan, I still can feel the culture, like very strong culture. But in Korea, because it's a fusion of many different cultures, I don't really feel it.
Here, there's very much a sense of togetherness, and even when the foreigners come in, they're willing to help foreigners out. It's not a standoffish culture. Everybody seems to be very nice, very safe. And while the U.S. is that way too, they're much more welcoming right now to foreigners here, and specifically in Seoul.
For Koreans, it's like very bad to show your top part of your body, and it's difficult in Korea. Sometimes it's a bit too exposed, so that's a big issue. And for us, like, they wear short skirts and short shorts, and for us that's like, ooh, look how short our skirt is.
The age thing, like Koreans treat their elders with a lot more respect, and Americans do too, but it's just very different how they do it.
We were staying in the hotel and we went up to the bar. There was a hotel bar at the top, and they had a piano and a singer, and all of a sudden this lady came out and started doing pole dancing. It was quite open, there were lots of ladies in the bar, and she was very good, but that's something we'd not seen before. You generally in London, you go to slightly seedier places. The men would go to those places for pole dancing.
The men can confirm?
Yes.
Okay.
But not very often.
Obviously, the language barrier is difficult, like talking to people, and they look at me like, well, what are you saying? I don't speak English. And then like personal space, like people can get like all in my face. Like they'll be like right here, like, hello, how are you? And I'm like, whoa, relax.
My students who are 8 years old, their bedtime is like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. In Canada, an 8-year-old goes to bed at like 7 or 8. So I notice little differences, but not too many differences.
Koreans appear to me to be much more family-oriented and much more of a nuclear family. Even though they're living in the big cities and things like that, they're very closely tied, where in the United States, now people are dispersed. Like my own family is in 3 different states and things like that. So I find the Korean family very strong.
You have to respect your elders here a lot. Like with the train, if an older person comes on, you have to get up and you let them sit down. Mostly the trains back home, they don't really care. They'll see an older person who's standing up and they won't get up. But that's one thing that I actually like, that you have to respect your elders here.
Everything in Korea is quite peaceful, and then so many people is queuing, and there is no heavy traffic jam just like in Jakarta. That's the difference. And also the people, they're really, really good.
I think subways is definitely like one of the biggest things. It's so subway oriented, and US is all cars.
I was really struck by like the markets, especially like the food markets and stuff. That sort of thing you don't find as much in America.
I think in the US it's probably a lot more acceptable to like go out of the house in like sweatpants with like no makeup on. I mean, I've seen people do it around my building where I live if they're just running to the 7-Eleven, but Americans will go to like the mall in like their pajamas. Like that would never happen in Korea. So that's a big deal, and just especially about interacting with other people, and kind of like the keeping or saving face is a lot bigger here than it is in the US.
Historically, we have been exposed to more to the outside world, which means that we have more cultural influences from other countries around the world. whereas historically Korea has been more a closed country. So that is the cultural difference. But otherwise, I mean, both are Asian cultures, very similarities in terms of language, in terms of respect for elders, and so these are the commonalities.
Sometimes in America, I kind of feel a little threatened. I hate to say that, but kind of do. But here, it's more if I come up to someone on the street, be like, "Hey, do you know where this place is?" I won't get a snotty answer. It'll be more, "Oh yeah, it's blah, blah, blah," et cetera, et cetera. So I do feel more at home, kind of.
Everyone lives the same everywhere in the world in some way. We all like to eat, we all like music, things like that.
I've told people before that when I'm here, I feel like I just live in a different part of the United States because I feel like it's so much like America to me. Yeah, it is. I feel at home here.
What's the biggest cultural difference between Korea and your home country?
Many difference. Our country is Islamic country. Everything is different. Culture different and clothing, natural, everything different.